I'm Pastor Keith Mackey of St. Paul Church of Napoleon, Missouri. How many of us know people who have this cool, civilized exterior, but underneath they are rough and woolly? They look like sophisticated city folk, but barely underneath the surface there lies a hillbilly just waiting to bust out. Well, you're about to meet one because today we have 10 big ones coming at you. Let's get her done. We begin with this from Deuteronomy 32, 1-4. Listen, O heavens, and I will speak. Hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. Let my teaching fall like rain, and my words descend like dew, like showers on new grass, like abundant rain on tender plants. I will proclaim the name of the Lord. Oh, praise the greatness of our God. He is our rock. His works are perfect. All his ways are just. God of wonder, God of awesome power and love, we thank you that you are so willing to meet us in love here. And now, as you met our fathers and mothers in faith on their journeys, as you entered our human life in Jesus, help us open our hearts to you in this time of worship, that we may grow in love toward you and all people through your Spirit. In Jesus' name, amen. So here I am on Facebook, scrolling away, having a good time, minding my own business, when what do I see but this? The Hillbilly 10 Commandments. Well, so I get a good chuckle out of it and start to move on, but then a wicked thought hits my mind. That could make a good sermon. Well, I said to myself, you can't take these butchered 10 Commandments and make a sermon out of it. That's just wrong. Besides, they'll think you've gone nuts. To which I replied to myself, they already know I'm nuts. Suddenly, I felt a sermon coming on. So here's what we're going to do for our study this morning. I'm going to go down the list, read the Hillbilly Commandments, then the corresponding actual commandment, give a word from the New Testament, and then say just a couple thoughts about each. So with 10 of them, we better get cracking. Now they may not be in the same order as the originals, and there is a Christian dispensation slant, but that's okay. The basic concept here is valid. Like it or not, the 10 Commandments are the basis for most of humanity's foundation of right and wrong. When you look at the commandments, there is one thing I think you will realize, and that they're all about relationships. Relationships between ourselves and our Creator, and ourselves and our fellow human being. So one last thought before we start. You must realize that this would get my attention because I am pure 100% Missouri Ozarks hillbilly stock. My race is hillbilly. My genetic code is hillbilly. Born in Mountain Grove, Missouri, my grandfather on my dad's side was a moonshiner in them old hills, and on my mother's side, my granddad assured me that his grandfather was a bald knobber. Now, they were a vigilante group back in the 1800s, made infamous in the story Old Matt's Cabin and other things, and they star in some rides at Silver Dollar City. Now, over the years, Carolyn would get put out at me when I would sop whatever grub is left over in my plate with bread. Hey, I can't help it. I come by this naturally. I am pure hillbilly genetic stock, and hey, it's what we do. All right, here we go. Number 1, ain't but one God. This is the key reality of all existence. This is the central truth of the universe. Our God is God. I know it's politically correct to honor and respect all other religions. Well, guess what? I don't care. All those other religions are false man-made religions. They will not get you to heaven. Now, that makes you upset. I'm sorry. Well, not sorry. As God himself told Moses in Exodus 20, verses 1-3, and God spoke these words, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You will have no other gods before me. What part of that do we not understand? A lot of folks worship Allah, the moon god of Persia, and a lot of folks say Allah and the great I Am are one and the same. They are not. Our God is God, and the fullness of him is represented in Jesus of Nazareth and nowhere else. Look at Matthew 8:26-27. He replied, "You of little faith, why are you so afraid?" Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. The men were amazed and asked, "What kind of man is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him." Well, what kind of man is this? God. That's what kind of man he is. All right. Number 2. Honor your ma and pa. Like I said, they weren't necessarily put in order. The way God put it to Moses was in verse 12, "Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you." Now, this, too, is a key element of how to successfully live in this world and make transition to the next. My generation, the baby boomers, have lived this from both ends, both as the generation rising up against our parents and as the generation who has watched our children rise up against us. Paul had some good thoughts on that in Ephesians 6:1-4. "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on earth. Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord." Isn't it amazing how we see that if we just follow God's instructions, all of life just gets easier? Okay, number 3. No telling tales or gossiping. Truthfulness is a really big deal with God. There is something about lying about someone that really sets God off. Notice that when Jesus was convicted and sent to the cross, it was by the force of false testimony. Yes, an eye toward the Messiah is seen even here in Exodus 20:16. "You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor." This theme permeates the Bible. Here's one example. Proverbs 19:5 says, "A false witness will not go unpunished, and he who pours out lies will not go free." Number 4, get your hide to Sunday meeting. Okay, so the author of this has kind of sort of updated the commandment from the Sabbath of the Old Testament to the church's meeting on the Lord's Day, which is Sunday. The Sabbath was the seventh day, or Saturday, when God rested up from the creation of the universe. God was ready to take a break, and he knew that his creature would do a lot better if he too could take a break. In Exodus 28:10, "Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your manservant, nor maidservant, nor your animals, nor the alien within your gates." Now, we've tried to do them one better in our culture by bringing about the 5-day work week as a norm. Not everybody gets to do that, but hopefully most folks can maintain the biblical standard of at least having 1 day off. Churches come in every kind of shape, size, and form. You know, we live in the land of milk and honey, wherein there seems to be a church on every block, but still, we need to be more proactive in getting our friends and family here so that it can be a part of our family. The writer of Hebrews had a bit of urgency in this matter. In Hebrews 10:25, "Let us not give up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." So we're dealing with the old Sabbath. We're dealing with the new Lord's Day. You know, I tell you what, at the end of the day, I've met a lot of Lone Ranger Christians out there by themselves, not being a part of any fellowship or brotherhood, but they claim all the trappings of Christianity unto themselves. And yeah, I guess this is possible, and some may actually do it successfully. But I do know this: while it's possible, it is difficult. You need the support and, yes, accountability of a church family for this journey. So anyway, here's where this next one is where our society really flunks. Number 5, ain't nothing come before the Lord. This is a concept that we have a real problem with in this country. A lot of folks will say the Lord comes first, but when it comes to action, we see the Lord takes a back seat just about every time. When the Lord says He is first priority, He means it. He has made us His first priority, so He rightly asks the same of us, but then gives us free will so we can throw His request into the trash. Our society calls for tolerance of all religions, well, except Christianity, of course, and demands that we treat them all the same as God. They say God understands. After all, aren't we all going to the same place, just by different roads? I've heard it said, I believe in Jesus, but who am I to judge my Muslim brother? Well, defend all of that in the light of this. Exodus 20:4-6. You shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the fathers to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. Just as we expect God to understand when we put just about everything in life ahead of Him, well, we think it ill-mannered of God to demand our loyalty. What does Jesus say about it? He said in Matthew 19:29, and everyone who has left houses or brothers or sisters or father or mother or children or fields for my sake will receive 100 times as much and will inherit eternal life. Hey, this is a hard teaching for us because we have a tendency to put just these things, family, job, stuff, top priorities in life, and they are important, kid yourself not. But remember this, I've always thought, and still think, if you put God in His proper place above everything, then all these other things will fall into their places and all will prosper, actually. All right, number 6, no fooling with another feller's gal. This one is really quite simple and straightforward. Verse 14, you shall not commit adultery. And we know what that's all about, sexual encounters between people who are married but not to each other. But Jesus ups the ante on us in this dispensation. In Matthew 5:27-28, He says, you have heard it was said, do not commit adultery. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Whoa. I mean, as we go about our way, Jesus is saying, well, not just keep your hands to yourself, but keep your mind and heart clean as well. You need to keep your mind out of the gutter. All right, so the hottie in the next cubicle is, well, hot. Don't just keep your hands to yourself, keep your mind to yourself, because it is from the mind that sin is born. And when sin is conceived and born, the result is death. Don't be surprised if you can't find God's will for your life if you're full of heart rot. Number 7, no killing except for critters. So many arguments abound here involving such things as military service, police action, self-defense. Well, what it says is this in verse 13, Exodus 20, you shall not murder. And of course, in this dispensation, Jesus demonstrates that He is, as usual, more interested in your heart and your innermost being than in any externals. And once again, He raises the bar. Matthew 5:21-22, He said, you have heard that it was said to the people long ago, do not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with his brother shall be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to his brother, Raka, is answerable to the Sanhedrin, but anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger of the fire of hell. Whoa! So now you're just getting in trouble if you're just mad about something? Now if you're in trouble if you call someone a name? So you can lose your salvation if you curse your brother? Again, Jesus gives us this tough teaching because he is not interested in externals, but wants our hearts and minds cleansed. My personal thought on this is praise be to God for grace. For compared to the standard that Jesus sets us, I think we all flunk out. All right, number 8, quit your foul mouthing. Now, the King James Version says not to take the name of the Lord in vain. NIV translates it this way in verse 7, Exodus 20, you shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Now, this covers a lot more than not just using the GD bomb in your conversation. In fact, the Israelite people were so afraid that they would misuse the name of God that they never said his name. And so this could be where we get the habit of calling God, God, instead of his name, which he told Moses is, I am. Elohim in Hebrew. We have anglicized it to Jehovah. Fearsome is the name of the Lord. And let us address him in awe. And I'll tell you what, don't swear to God unless you mean to swear to God, okay? Our culture thinks words don't matter. But I'll tell you what it does. What comes out of your mouth marks you. And yes, it does matter. I swear. Oh, okay. Number 9. No swiping your kinfolk's stuff. No, wait a minute. If you can't swipe your kinfolk's stuff, whose stuff can you swipe? Well, I guess nobody's. Exodus 20:15, you shall not steal. I don't care if they have it coming. I don't care if it's just something at the office that nobody will miss. You cannot steal. Paul had this to say about it in Ephesians 4:28. He who has been stealing must steal no longer, but must work, doing something useful with his own hands, that he may have something to share with those in need. I think we get the point on that one. And finally, number 10, don't be a hankering for it neither. Ah, yes, the fine old American custom of lusting and coveting for somebody else's stuff. You know, there's a movement in our nation right now that says, all you rich people, we want your money, we want your stuff, and we want it now. You know, wealth redistribution. Well, God was very specific in this. In Exodus 20:17, you shall not covet your neighbor's house, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his manservant or maidservant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. You know, from lusting and coveting, many bad things have come over the years. And even back then, God would put a stop to it. So let me sum this all up. No, wait a minute. I have a better idea. Let's have Jesus sum it all up. So look at Matthew 22:34-40. Hearing that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, the Pharisees got together. One of them, an expert in the law, tested him with this question. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Listen to verse 40. All the law and prophets hang on these 2 commandments. So at the end of the day, it all boils down to love. And this is a world steeped in hate. No wonder they try to take the 10 commandments down every chance they get. Let us, you and I, right here, right now, vow to be a people of the 10 commandments. Let us vow to be a people of love. Hey, that's all our time for today. Let's go out and love our awesome God. Let's love our fellow mankind. I'm Pastor Keith Mackey. I'll see you around.